Tonight does not make sense to a lot of people. It's too remote a concept, too philosophical. They like things that are very clear and make plain sense. It's hard to know what tonight is about by reading the gospel, because the gospel is about the Annunciation of the birth of Jesus that the angel declared to Mary. By the time that happened, the Immaculate Conception was long ago. If that seems strange to you to hear, it means that you probably have understandably been a bit unclear about what the Immaculate Conception is all about. And it's totally fine if that's the case, because it's a confusing concept. But it's a beautiful concept. And it's true in your life, and it's true in my life too. You may be surprised for me to say that at the time of the gospel we just heard, the Immaculate Conception was long in the past. Because the Immaculate Conception can only be understood as a backstory. That's one of the reasons why you can't find information about it in the Bible. Because it's not about the story of Jesus in real time. It's the backstory. It's kind of like how to understand someone's life, you may have to meet their parents or learn about the story of their grandparents in order for the whole picture to make sense. Many people can tell you without any cliff notes the story of the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is one of those stories that's just iconic in American storytelling. But some of you have seen the musical Wicked, and it helps the story of the Wizard of Oz to feel a little different. The story of the musical Wicked is a backstory. It's all about what life was like for the Good Witch and the Wicked Witch way back when they were in college, which is kind of a cute idea, isn't it? Well before they were known as the Wicked Witch and the Good Witch, there's a backstory to their life. And that's what makes that musical so interesting, is it opens a whole new world into understanding a story that we already understand so well. We already know that story. So to learn more about it by learning what happened way back when, or as Paul Harvey would call the rest of the story, for those of you who remember him, that's what the Immaculate Conception is all about. Let me tell you about what the Immaculate Conception is about, if you haven't heard. It's about Anna and Joachim, Mary's parents, conceiving her. Long before Jesus was born, Mary was immaculately conceived. And that's why her life was so special. Had no stories of darkness in the midst of it, because God gave her a special blessing long before any of the story that we know came to be, so that she would have the strength to be a part of that story, so that that story could unfold. And Mary knew that God was the only way that she could have done what she did, because she always gave glory to God for everything that she decided. You know how sometimes when there is a football game and the quarterback makes a touchdown and everyone's cheering, yes, go, you did it. But some quarterbacks won't fully accept that. They might be excited, they might pound their chest, but then they go like this. It's only because of God that could have happened. It's only because of God. Give the glory to God. And that's what Mary always did. We hear that whatever credit the angel might have given her on the night that she learned that she would be the mother of Jesus, making her the mother of God, she says, oh no, I'm the handmaid of the Lord. The Lord gets credit for this. She says, my soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. Anything good that I do, it's because of God. And you may be able to relate to that in your own life too. Not just in a nice way, not just in a cozy way, but in a real way. A lot of people will say to me, Father, I really appreciated going to that funeral today. I really felt like I got to know that person even though I didn't know them well. Today we had a funeral for Bud Taylor, who was a fixture in Glens Falls for many, many years. And I didn't know Bud up until 2 years ago. But during the homily today, I shared with people all about his life. And people said, Father, how did you do that? How did you share all about his life that way? And I can tell you that when I was 18 years old, I wound up going to school for journalism. And I learned how to sit with a notepad and take copious notes about every single thing a person tells me. Because you never know where the true story is. It might be in a little moment when their guard is down, when they're not really paying attention to the question. The real stuff comes out by gathering all of it and then sifting through it. I've never worked as a journalist, and looking back, I thought, was that degree a waste of time? Why in the world was I called to be a journalist when God was calling me to be a priest? 4 years and all of that tuition money for a journalism degree? But it's the journalism degree that allows me to do funerals. It's why the funerals aren't cookie cutter. It's because I'm able to use that degree that I have, without ever even thinking about it, to interview people using the interview techniques of a journalist, not of a priest. And then I'm able to figure out how the story connects God to their life. I'm able to see the patterns, because that's what a journalist does. And that's what I learned when I was getting a degree that I thought I would never use, because that's how God works. In 1993, God called me to get a journalism degree. I thought it was for a totally different purpose. I wanted to be on the Today Show. But that wasn't going to happen. God had something else in mind. And what God had in mind is perfect. Perfect for me and really helpful for those families. Now, because I just told you that, can you understand why when someone says, Father, what a beautiful funeral that was, I say, glory be to God. That's not just a nice thing to say. That's not just something that is a pious way to talk. That's the truth. I didn't decide what path my life would take. That was God. And I couldn't have planned it. There's no way I would have spent that money and spent that time on a degree that I wasn't going to work in a career for. I wouldn't have. But God knew that that was what was needed. And so God called me to it. I can give you so many other examples of that, but you don't need them because you're probably already thinking of it in your own life. What was it that happened long ago that gave you the ingredients that you needed to get through whatever it is that you've been through? How did a tragedy early in your life prepare you to be brave and faith-filled for something later? How did an experience that you had long before you ever knew that some other chapter of your life was going to unfold gave you exactly the ingredients that you needed to get through it? It's not even really known to us if Mary knew that her conception was immaculate. But does it matter if she knew or not? She had the grace and the strength that she needed. God made sure that all the ingredients that she needed for the work that she was called to do was supplied to her. What has been supplied to you for your life? When have you been able to look back and say, that made no sense to me then, but I now realize that was part of an amazing, masterful plan? They say that no matter how beautiful a tapestry is, no matter how gorgeous a handmade rug would be, no matter how beautiful a wall hanging would be, if you look at the back side of it, it's a mess of strings. They don't look like anything. And they don't have any kind of pattern that you can discern. It looks like a great big bungled mess. And that's a really good image for what life sometimes is like. We're looking at the backside of the tapestry and saying, what the heck is this? Who made a wreck out of this? And it's only when we turn it over and step back, we say, oh my Lord and my God, look at what you've been doing with what I thought was just a mess of strings and chaos that had no pattern. The Immaculate Conception reminds us that there's always a pattern behind what looks like chaos. And our mother used the gifts that she was given to their utmost potential. May we take a page out of her book and do the same thing with all that God has done for us.